Space. Such a vast, infinite expanse. Endless worlds, endless opportunities for discovery, and endless ways to cash in. Where some see wonder and exploration, we see it for what it is. A galaxy of planets just waiting, aching, to become parking lot looking efficiency monuments. Hey everyone, I'm Laut-E, and in case you've been living under a rock, Crack Cocaine just released an update. So welcome to Factorio Space Age. In this video we are taking our factories flying to industrial/beautiful paradise.
Hell.
That means starting an entire operation from scratch, fending off anti-progress fanatics and getting the hell out before the guilt of our actions catches up to us. To pull off this rocket science venture, I've enlisted the help of my trusty business partner, my friend, my scapegoat, Skyner. Because if things explode, I'd rather not take the credit. We start our enterprise with a crash landing. And yeah, I know what you're thinking. I wasn't gonna say it, but fine. It was Skyner's turn at the wheel. Once we were done pretending it was intentional, we got straight to work. First up, setting up our not so eco-friendly coal-fueled miners to extract ore, smelt it, and crank out even more miners. Progress has really begun. From there, we set up power, made a few tweaks, and boom! Our starter factory was born. I like to call this one the capitalism cradle, where all good profit schemes begin. We'll call it the cradle for short. The cradle is here to give us just enough to kickstart the real factory. It's a mini version of what's coming really, using a simple bus setup to centralize resources. This means different machines can grab what they need from the same source without having to run separate lines for everything. A starter factory will do, for now, but if we want off this rock, the factory must expand. Before we can even think about the main factory, however, there's a little hiccup we need to clear first. We haven't talked about the locals yet. These self-righteous tree huggers lounge around in the little towns just waiting for our pollution cloud to barely touch them so they can throw a fit. Like we are the ones holding progress back. You see, the cradle produces two kinds of items, some to push progress forward and others to make sure it doesn't get pushed back. If you wanna keep expanding, we are gonna have to clear the path first. So, we developed a plan. We roll up in our boogies, spam turrets right on their doorstep and give them a choice. Step outside and get shredded by turrets and grenades, or stay put and be buried under the weight of progress. Either way, the factory wins. Once the plan was set, Skyner and I geared up, and finally we were ready to carve out the future, one town at a time. Like that, a few settlements later, the locals were reluctantly evicted. Their little protest reduced to rubble. The path finally cleared for our glorious expansion. Sure, it wasn't pretty, but hey, the factory calls, and we are on a schedule. Now that the land was secured, it was time to lay the foundation for our main factory. We got to work, setting up production lines, organizing resources, and watching the chaos slowly turn into something resembling order. Soon enough, the factory was starting to take shape. Bells were running smoothly, machines humming in sync, and bots zipping around. What started as a little outpost was becoming an unstoppable industrial powerhouse. But then, well, not that unstoppable. Turns out, our pollution got just a tad out of hand, so the bugs were evolving right along with us. We built a full perimeter around the base, but now we have protesters on all fronts, and therefore expansion got harder and harder. What we needed was a smarter solution. Something with range. Something like artillery. Long range, easy to use, and perfect for delivering progress without putting ourselves at risk. Efficient, explosive, what's not to love? Here's the thing though, artillery needs a science pack we can't unlock yet. And if we want to keep the factory growing, we'll have to expand off-planet. You see, the metallurgic science pack? Yeah, that seems to come only from one place.
Hell.
With that, our course was locked. The first planet waiting for us out there was Vulcanus. The only thing left now was to unlock space travel. For that, we need to launch rockets. Rockets aren't just fancy tin cans, they are the culmination of everything we've built so far. They demand the latest circuits, the most advanced oil products, and low-density structures. All of this pushes the factory to its absolute limits, especially at the start. But it will be worth it. After assembling the required sections and hooking them up to our silo, it was time. The moment had come. The countdown echoed through the factory, and with one final command, the engines roared to life. Our first ship had left this world behind. So, now that we've broken free from the limitations of gravity, it was time to think bigger. Like a space station bigger. Our first orbital factory, Opti-1, had one job. Harvest space resources, turn them into science packs, and send those back to push our tech forward. To reach Vulcanus, however, we needed a proper spaceship. A vessel that screams efficiency and progress. Naturally, we named it Spaceship Nilaus. If you've learned Factorio without ever hearing out Nilaus, congrats, you are a prodigy. For the rest of us mere mortals, he's the optimization guru, the logistical godfather, the one who taught us not to cry when dealing with advanced oil. Naming our first ship after him was the least we could do. Now, here's where things get tricky. Traveling to another planet in Factorio comes with challenges. First up, asteroid fields. To survive them, the ship needs turrets firing bullets made from asteroid chunks. So we'll need a steady supply to keep those turrets fed. On top of that, the ship must produce its own fuel on the go, using all three types of asteroid chunks. These two processes must be rock solid. If either of them fails, we'll be stranded in the middle of space. But honestly, who's got time to do the math? The minute we were reasonably sure SS Nilaus could fly, we got ready and made our way to the ship. Vulcanus awaited. Ladies and gents, welcome to Vulcanus. This planet is incredible. Giant worms, brand new resources, the perfect temperature. We were so eager to start working that we just popped a punchak and... Oh, wait. That's right. We left those on Nauvis. In our excitement to reach Vulcanus, we forgot the essentials to actually work here. But no worries. SS Nilaus can make a quick trip back and grab what we need. Good thing we've got a reliable ship to... Oh. Okay, that's a minor hull damage. Nothing to worry about. Don't worry, guys. Okay, that last bit was a little rough, but we are okay still. Halfway there. The ship will make it. Uh-oh. That's not good. Basically, SS Nilaus had just enough firepower to reach Vulcanus, but not enough to make it back. Our bullet production couldn't keep up, our two thrusters weren't nearly enough, and, well, we didn't exactly wait for a full recharge before sending it off. So, yeah, you saw what happened. Now we are stranded on a volcanic wasteland with no ship to make it out. And, as you can probably guess, this was entirely Skyner's fault. I mean, sure, technically I built the ship, but who was the one nodding along when I said, nah, it'll be fine? Exactly. So, really, if you think about it, this is a learning opportunity. For him. Clearly, SS Nilaus was enough for the task. So, back to the drawing board we went, and out came SS Nilaus 2. This time, we actually did the math for the bullets, slapped on 3 more thrusters, and made sure she at least looked capable of making a round trip. Fully stocked with everything we forgot the first time, we launched her straight for Vulcanus. She didn't exactly make it there unscathed, but after a few minor tweaks, we had the perfect ship. It's not symmetrical, I know. Sue me. At least finally, we could get back to work. Vulcanus is weird. Giant worms control huge chunks of land and, as you might guess from the name,
Demolish her.
they are not big fans of us building there. But aside from that, no wandering enemies. Which is honestly a nice change. The real reason we are here though, is the resources. Sulfuric gas comes straight from the ground, which is perfect for power. Then there's calcite, and finally, tungsten. But we'll get to that one later. Calcite's really where the magic happens. Mix it with lava and you can make most basic materials that don't need oil. And for anything that does, well, that's what sulfur is for. These processes are incredibly efficient and calcite is everywhere, so time to build a factory. Our nodes for this are pretty simple. Feed calcite into a foundry, hook up the lava with our apparently magical iron pipes, don't ask me how that works, and keep the stone output clear so production doesn't jam. With this setup we cover all the basics. Plates, gears, the works. Now for the hard part. The science we need, it requires tungsten. Everything special about this planet needs tungsten. The thing is, all of our patches are inside Demolisher's no-no zones. So, if we want to keep moving forward, we'll have to deal with them first. Our first attempt, however, didn't go great. I set up some turrets, lured it in, and yeah, turns out that wasn't nearly enough. Once these things get angry, they are quite unstoppable. So we had to kill it fast. Like, one hit from a massive cannon fast. Fire! And you know what hits like a massive cannon? 80 turrets firing at the exact same spot. I was working on the switch to trigger the turrets when, well, this happened. Upa. A ver, ¿dónde estás? Te escuché. Ahí. ¡Hala! Fuck. And that was a small one. Clearly we needed something bigger. So I tried again, but this time with a tank. And although this one doesn't have a big cannon, at least it has uranium rounds. Which, as it turns out, works even better. Now that no one's trying to kick us out, we can finally start mining tungsten. We had to set up elevated trains, which, if you ask me, look really cool. Link that up with a few foundries, a few tweaks here and there, and boom! Orange Science is up and running. With that done, the last step was making Vulcanus self-sufficient. Rockets had to launch from here, carrying science, artillery, and raw materials for shell production. If we didn't set everything up locally, we had to bring launch materials from Nauvis. And considering how cheap Vulcanus is by comparison, that just wouldn't make sense. So, we paved over the factory, set up oil refining, belt production, and even a little hub. 10 hours later, Vulcanus was finally running on its own. Sure, it's not very organized, but everything essential is flowing where it should. And at last, we can ship to Nauvis. We'll be using Reach, the ship's Skyner build, to hold cargo between Nauvis and Vulcanus. And sure, he was the one who actually designed it. And yeah, it worked perfectly fine the first time. But if you really think about it, you wouldn't have even made it without my moral support. Yeah, that's right. So really, this is another win for me. With logistics handled, it was time for what we like to call aggressive negotiations. You see, while we were busy making Vulcanus self-sufficient, the box had been expanding a lot. And let's just say they weren't thrilled about our later industrial revolution, staging protests with catchy slogans like "Stop waste" or "Compensation for war crimes." Truly diabolical. I think this might be the right time to let you in on something. The fact that pesticide exists means the Geneva Convention does not apply in this case. So really, what comes next is just pest control. Sure, it may be on a planetary scale, and yeah, maybe the pesticide in question involves high explosive artillery shells. But at the end of the day, this is how we maintain ecological balance. With the nest cleared and artillery shells turning the landscape into a perfectly flat land, the expansion on Nauvis was finally secured. Our logistics went from us feeding furnaces by hand to automated spaceships coming back and forth. And, for the first time in a while, things were stable. No last-minute disasters, no missing materials, just a fully operational war machine ready to fuel what comes next. Finally, we get to contemplate the fruit of our work. Okay, this is just boring. And there's more resources to be discovered, production to plan, and biomes to... reorganize. So, where to next? Well, I hear Fulgora is lovely this time of year.